And welcome to Sports on Tap. I'm your host, Rob Troutman. It's our Summer Spotlight Series, and Sean Duffy joining me as well tonight. And our guest tonight, he is the Midday host on 92.3 The Fan. Andy Baskin joins us, and everybody knows Andy. He's been on TV for a long time, radio. Hey, everybody, you're in their homes. You've been in their homes for a long time, and, you know, I just appreciate you coming on tonight and taking time. I know how busy you are.
Well, I don't know how long I've been in their houses. At least I didn't steal anything, so that's a good thing we got going on. And Rob, and Sean, it's great to be on with you. But Rob, I mean, we go a long way back, and I remember when you first started in your career, and you were just ready to do anything possible. And it's great to see where you are and how successful you've been. So just honored to be on with you to kind of turn the tables with you.
I know, and you know, you've always been great in everything you've done. You know, whether it's TV or radio, and you know, I think it's pretty cool that you're still working with Jeff Phelps on 92.3 The Fan, because Jeff's a great guy too. I've kept in touch with him over the years. But let's first talk about how you started. You know, I know you went to Kent State, but even talk before then, how you even got involved in radio and television.
Well, let me share a story with. I don't know that anyone's ever really heard this story, but you know, when I first started, I was an intern at Channel 8. I went to Kent. I did all those Kent things, and you know, I did KSR at Kent State, and we did TV2, and we had all kinds of stuff going on there, and it was a lot of fun. My first job was, and I'll just, you know, as I talk to you, a lot of life here is just paying it forward, and like some of the backstory is kind of neat. You know, I worked at Channel 8 as an intern. That was really, I'm trying to think, my first internship was at Channel 8. And it was great, but it was, you know, I was going to Kent and I was interning on the overnight show with Mark Schrader. And Schrader was there and Danny Coughlin was there. You know, and it was just, it was a really interesting time to be in television, because I think television was still in its heyday. And this was like back in 1988. And so I started there, and then I got an internship at Channel 23 in Akron, which used to be a ABC affiliate. And I got great experience there because they let me on the air as an intern, which is, you know, was unheard of at the time. Now I think local TV is taking interns and throwing them on the air all the time. But at that time, it never happened. So I was lucky to work there, and I was still going to Kent. And then I almost got a job at Channel 23. I was really close. I just graduated and couldn't work for free. So then I was looking for another gig, and I ended up working at WRRO in Warren. Mark Nolan helped me get that job, which is just shows you how crazy things go. And, you know, I worked there, but I always remember my time at Channel 8. And what a lot of people don't know is that Tony Rizzo was pretty helpful with me. And I think, and as I look at you, you know, Tony had always said, pay it forward, the old Woody Hayes line. And so every time he had the chance to help me, or Mark Schrader had the chance to help me, or John Telich had the chance to help me, or Pete Michael, who was at Channel 23, had the chance to help, they always helped and always pushed it forward. And so, you know, when I would meet guys like you, Rob, along the way, I'd always be like, well, what can I do to help? I'm always here to help. And just call me. I might not always have the right answer to help you get a job, but I just always want to help people that especially have helped me along the way, no matter if you're going up or you're coming down or you're heading towards retirement. So anyway, long story short, ended up not going, didn't get hired at Channel 23, moved to Montana. And I spent 5 years in Montana. And it was the greatest experience I ever had, because with the exception of not making any money, because it was really tough to make money out there, I got to be the play-by-play voice of the Montana Grizzlies on television, and the play-by-play voice of the Montana basketball team on television, the women's basketball team on the radio, which was the greatest experience I've ever had. The team won a Big Sky championship. We had an All-American on that team. It was phenomenal. So I did that, and then I was in Montana for 5 years, got super lucky because I interviewed with a news director in Spokane, Washington, who left Spokane and ended up going to Columbus. His name was Paul Doogie, and I'm forever grateful to him. And ended up in Columbus at Channel 10 and worked with great people like Dom Taberry and Mike Gleason and Jay Crawford and Kirk Herbstreit. And, you know, it was just crazy, that whole run that we had there. Left there, went to Fox Sports Net Ohio, worked there for 5 years, as you know, and then, you know, did the Indians pre and post game show, traveled with the Indians for 6 years, traveled with the Cavaliers in the beginning of LeBron's career with the Cavaliers, spent time there, and then STO was created. So I went over to STO for a year. I worked at Channel 3 for a year. Then I ended up starting my own business for about 6 months. got a call from Channel 5, spent 10 years there. And in my 4th year in at Channel 5, I ended up starting back with Jeff Phelps, who I'd worked with at Fox Sports Net, and then ended up doing radio with him. And we're 11 years strong. And now I'm just kind of surfing through the waves, in new media, working for Spectrum News 1, which I absolutely love doing. They have a great team assembled there, and they do a phenomenal job. And as you know, with high school sports, I have the opportunity to call some high school games there too. So that's kind of the whole story in a nutshell in less than 4.5 minutes.
That's incredible. I mean, that is crazy, but it's really cool. And you've been great to me and Jeff Phelps. I remember after I was done, me and him went to Friendly's, I believe, just to talk. And I think it might have been over ice cream too. I don't know. I mean, Phelps was in Medina. I think it was in Brunswick when Friendly's was there.
There was the Friendly's in Kent too, at the top of the hill that everybody used to go to. My roommate in college actually worked at that Friendly's too. So every once in a while, he'd bring them some free food. Maybe that's why they're not in business anymore.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah.
Probably, but I mean that's really cool. I mean, how you've gone from, like you said, you've met some amazing people that have helped you, and like I said, you've always been great to me. Keeping in touch and not all the time, but it's like when we talk, it's like we didn't skip a beat. Especially, I learned so much from you and Jeff on the pregame show when it was Tribe Time, and on the field and how you prepped, and camera work and lighting. And I did have to go into the office once a week to rip scripts, and I'm not gonna lie, the office, it's an okay place, but it's a little more fun on the field. And
it's way more fun.
But that's very cool how much you've done in TV and radio.
Yeah, it's been a great ride, and I'm still expanding. I write for the Cleveland Jewish News now, this is my second stint of doing newspaper writing. I wrote for the This Week papers in Columbus when I was still working at Channel 10, and enjoyed it there. Covered Westerville High Schools, Westerville South and North, right after Andy Katzenmoyer joined the Buckeyes. That was a real interesting time because I was trying to figure out how to be a beat reporter for a newspaper, which is you got to turn your mind into a different direction. And so I've been doing that. And then we started a podcast too, which is called It's Always Game Day in Cleveland. I'm doing that with Darryl Ryder, who's our Browns beat reporter. So that's also been challenging. So, I mean, there's always these twists and turns. And then on top of that, I'm coaching high school hockey and girls softball during the summer. So it never ends.
Wow. Girls softball too. That's crazy.
It's awesome. It's fun. It's challenging in the beginning. And then as the girls really get to know the game, it's been fun. Sometimes I'll dip in as a head coach, but most of the time I've been an assistant coach, and I love that. And
now, what grade is
my
it?
first love is hockey. There's no question about it.
What grade is the softball in? Because I'm an assistant coach with my daughters, and it's 8-year-olds. So
it's still fun at 8.
Oh,
I'm telling you, it's still fun.
Do you know what? They're just I have girls that are in kindergarten through I think 3rd grade, and they're learning because they had to skip with COVID. They had to actually skip t-ball, so it's starting from basically basics. Fundamentals.
Yeah. I've been doing 18U at this point. Okay. This is our first year of 18U. So I've done 16U, 14U, 12U, 10U, 8U. I've done it all, and it's fun. My daughter's on the team, so that makes it really special. And then our son plays too. I should say our daughter. Our son plays too, and he plays baseball. He plays travel baseball. I don't even know. Where are you now? What city are you in?
I'm in North Ridgeville.
Oh, you're in North Ridgeville. So anyway, I know you do some stuff around the state. Like we're in Columbus, we're at Cedar Point. Where were we? I was in Toledo last week. Travel baseball. Between travel baseball and travel hockey, it's a lot. It really is. And be prepared if your kids are going to get involved in that stuff.
Well, yeah. How was hockey with your son? I think you were doing coaching JV, but Gilmore with a championship this year.
Yeah. So our varsity A team at Gilmore, we have 5 levels at the academy. Boys hockey, we have a U18 team, a U16 team. We have a varsity A team, which won the state championship. It's arguably our 2nd or 3rd best team at the school. Then we have a varsity B team, which is coached by Mark Ferfolia, who's an outstanding coach. Spent a lot of time around the area. Also coached football at one point, but probably best known for his days at Trinity. And then we have a JV team, which is essentially like a lot of the B and JV stuff mix. And then we also have girls teams. We have a U16 girls team. We have a U18 tier 1 team. We have a U18 tier 2 team. And then we have a prep team. And also the academy side has a boys prep team too, and a boys U16 team. So there are over 130 hockey players at Gilmore right now, and it's
Cool.
really a special place. Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible because we cover the Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League. We talk to a lot of coaches, and it varies. I mean, you have your teams like Rocky River and those programs where it seems like they're always reloading and they're up there, but you have other teams like that are jumping divisions because they can't get skaters. And here, like the academy's got 130 skaters. At any point in time, male and female. That's really impressive to keep that kind of spark in that area, considering that Ohio's not exactly a hotbed of hockey. It's Northeast Ohio is, but maybe not the statewide. And I think that's something that we want to shine a light on here. But I mean, going back to hockey, you played at Cleveland Heights when they had, arguably probably one of the top teams throughout the 80s in the state. And can you talk a little bit about how you kept in touch or used that experience as you went forward in your career?
Yeah. So what's interesting is like my whole hockey career was, I played all the way through my freshman year at Kent. I played juniors for literally a month on a team called the Midwest Express. And I was like, man, I got to go to school. So, that was pretty much the end of my hockey career. I moved out to Montana and was hoping that I would be able to, start that back up in 90, but Missoula didn't have a rink at the time. And I was like on the board of directors trying to get a rink. It was called Missoula on Ice. Now they have a rink and they have teams, and the city of Missoula is doing great with hockey, especially when you think about how far north it is in Montana. But when I was there, I really didn't get to do much. So that was another 5 years off. Got back to Columbus and started playing men's league when I was at WBNS. And that was fun. Played roller hockey there, played men's league. I mean, let's face it, all roads lead to men's league. It doesn't matter how much money you put into your kid. It doesn't matter how much time you put into your kid. At the end of the day, even Wayne Gretzky's playing men's league, right? Even the greatest of them. So let's not ever forget that and keep that in perspective when you're actually playing the game. So for me, I was working Indians and I was traveling and I was on a plane. The Indians were getting set to play the Braves. And I just happened to walk by a guy who was sitting on the plane, and it was John Malloy, my high school coach. And I said, and at the time I wasn't doing Cavaliers in the off season, and they hired me. I was doing just Indians, and I ran into John. I'm like, I got a lot of free time during the winter. Do you need a coach? And he was like, yeah. So in 2000, I went back to Gilmore and coached there for 3 years. I was an assistant coach on their varsity A team, and really got to know John. We took a little time off after we had kids, and then once our kids were old enough to skate, once they hit 5 or 6. Then I got involved in the youth program at Gilmore, and I'm still involved in the youth program. Our Bantam team last year, our Bantam AA team was outstanding. They just missed the Nationals by one game. So I've had a great ride and a great experience at Gilmore with Gilmore Youth Hockey and with the Academy. It's a great group of people. Mike Cellino and Tim Veach do a great job on our USA Hockey side, and then Coach Malloy, who is deep in my heart, no matter where I turn. And to have him finally win another state championship since his last one in 1987 is really special. And the bonds that he has with the kids that have been able to play have really, really special, because like when we were there in 1986, we were 30-0 and lost the state championship to St. Ed's. In 85, there was a guy named Mike Bauman who was on the team, and his son this year scored the game-winning goal in the state championship. So, and his uncle Pat was on the state championship team in 87. So really just the family ties that run through Gilmore, a lot of them stem from Cleveland Heights.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And Coach Ferfolia, we've had on our show, you want to talk about a wealth of knowledge with hockey, and he has stories. I mean, we actually want to just have him on and he'll just talk. He'll take over the show and just tell stories,
he's phenomenal. And this is great because so I've had the opportunity to do games for Spectrum, high school playoff games for Spectrum, and I was looking for a color analyst, and Mark and I are coaching now. So we both coached that Bantam team together, and then he was coaching the varsity B and I was coaching JV. And so we had a Friday night game. I think we were in Medina. Drew Aller was playing, and to watch him play was something really special, but I needed a color analyst, and boom, I turned to Mark Ferfolia, and he was phenomenal. And we've had some crazy times. I mean, Mark had a serious thing happen on the ice this year, which was very scary. And I was there for it, and I'm just glad that he's in good health right now. And I love the guy. He's like a brother dad to me. I'd say more of a dad because I played against him and I've coached against him and I've had some arguing matches with him when I was on the opposite side. So he is intense and he is a winner through and through.
Yeah, just a great guy, and like you said, he's willing to do whatever. Anytime he comes on, he's always in a great mood and always willing to do whatever it takes. But what do you think of high school hockey now, especially with when you played? Obviously it's changed a little bit. It seems like there's really a lot of teams. I know we're in the Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League. Ryan Kelber does a great job. He's the president of that. But I think they have 37 teams in that. And then I know there's the Greater Cleveland, that has St. Ed's and St. Ignatius and all kinds of different teams in that. What has changed from when you played, and what do you see in high school hockey? Do you see it growing and in a positive direction?
Yeah, I think it all starts with the youth leagues, and I know Gilmore does a outstanding job with their youth league, but there are other really good youth leagues in Northeast Ohio, and Rocky River does a phenomenal job. Parma does a great job. Kent does an outstanding job. Like when I look at those core communities that have had hockey for a long time, they're the ones that are distributing players throughout Northeast Ohio. Shaker and Mike Berg has done a phenomenal job there. And, I think it's interesting because I see it from a bunch of different perspectives. I see it from, Gilmore has teams where, I think our prep team had 2 kids from Northeast Ohio on it because there's dorms at Gilmore and we've got guys coming in and gals coming in from all over the world to play at Gilmore on the USA hockey side. But when you talk about the Ohio High School Athletic Association side, the majority of those kids are from Northeast Ohio, and they've grown up in these programs. We're trying to push the envelope on having AAA hockey, true AAA hockey here in Northeast Ohio, and the talent pool just is not there. There's probably room for one really good AAA team, whether that's Team Ohio or the Barons or, it used to be the Jacks. They're really the quality of player that's coming out of Northeast Ohio. I think that, we've grown, even to think that we might have one true AAA team. When I was a kid, that AAA team was the Americans. And that was it. They represented Northeast Ohio, and they were the best of all the CSHL teams. And I just think if you're a parent and you're getting involved, you need to ask yourself, what am I really getting myself into? How far are we going with this? What's the realistic goal? Look at the numbers of kids that are going to the NCAA or going to juniors out of Northeast Ohio. And I know parents want their kids to play against the best because they think that makes them the best. But I just think we've completely oversaturated the market as far as our youth programs. And, you're only as good as the effort your kid's going to put into it and the effort the coaching staff's going to put into it. And I really believe that. And, I watch the way kids get, treated. And, there's just some things that need to be fixed in youth hockey, especially here in Northeast Ohio. We're also at a disadvantage because you look at states like Pennsylvania. Why do they grow faster than us? Why is Western Pennsylvania hockey, essentially at the youth level have so many more players at a higher level than we do? And I think part of that has to do with the ability to play on multiple teams at the same time when you hit that high school level. So that, you play for your high school team, but you also play for your USA hockey team. Here in Ohio, we don't do that. And what happens is you get a lot of really good players that grew up here that want to play for their high school. They want to be on a team like Menor that can pull up a huge upset against Gilmore like they did 2 years ago. Or you want to play at Ed's, or you want to play at Ignatius, or you want to play at Padua because the history and tradition is there too. But I just don't – again, I go back and look at how we run hockey in Ohio compared to other states, and we do a lot of things backwards. I love the Ohio High School Athletic Association for what it is. I just think they need to rethink the way they do hockey here in the state. And I do think Coach Malloy and I will argue about this all the time, but we need another state championship. We need more than one state championship. I know they want more schools to be playing, but we should have a Division I and a Division II to create the opportunity, because we end up getting these hockey players that are playing that have never played before in high school. And it makes it interesting, and I think it's dangerous at times. When you put a high school football player out there on skates who maybe doesn't know how to skate, and then you put him up against somebody who's been skating for 15 or 16 years of their life, it's not a good situation. It's not good hockey. It's not quality hockey, and it doesn't really do anybody any good.
I think you hit it right on the head because we've seen that, with the Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League, there's a red, white, and blue division, and the red has players that know how to skate, that are pretty fast, that have maybe 3 lines, and the blue is kids that want to play but maybe are just learning and getting out there, and they only have maybe a line or 2 because it's a smaller school. So the division of play is a lot different, and the competition, I feel like, is spread out where you don't have the red playing, the blue and beating them 15-0, like
Well,
we see in the tournament
yeah,
a lot of times.
I look at schools like Mayfield, which also is a huge part of the rink at Gilmore, and Steve Bogus does a great job. Cleveland Heights last year, I look at what's going on at Heights. They have great coaching, but they only have like 1 line or 2 lines. Mayfield next year is going to be in that same situation where I know some kids that were top quality Bantams last year that'll be freshmen going in at Mayfield next year, and Bogus is going to have a good line. He could have a good goalie, but he's losing a lot of his players to other places because they might be in the district and maybe they were going to school there, but then they end up going to Gilmore, which is, super close, or they end up at Ignatius, or they end up at Ed's, and, they're looking for a little bit more. And, I look at what Steve has in front of him, and he's got some real quality players that can be playing at Mayfield right now. And then he's got some kids that are learning for the first time. So that blue division disparity from top to bottom, it's interesting. It's a difficult challenge for the coaches. But if you love the game, it's really why we're all in it.
Absolutely. Now let's switch a little bit to you on 92.3 The Fan in radio, and where radio's kind of going, and if it's changed at all, the business wise, because with all the podcasts now, podcasts are a huge thing. Not only are you on air, but we talked a little earlier. You're on a podcast. You have to wake up early in the morning. Your show's not on till 10 a.m. to
10
2.
to 2 over there. Yeah.
And now you're getting up at 7. You're doing a podcast on top of it. Talk about how radio has changed a little bit in the business of radio.
I've always had different perspectives on radio, and I've been lucky enough throughout my career to be able to do TV and radio at the same time. When I was in Missoula, or even like when I was at Kent, I was on KSR and I was also on TV2. When I moved to Montana, I was on KPAX TV, but I was also on KGVO radio. When I moved to Columbus, I had the opportunity to do a show called Morning BS on Sports Talk. I think we were Sports Talk 14. Well, I can't even remember what call it. I was on WBNS radio. 1420, I think. I can't remember what we were. But I did a show with Scott Spiker. And it was Morning BS on the weekends. And we were really lucky to have that show. And it was neat to be able to be on the radio and TV at the same time while I was in Columbus. And then when the opportunity arose here, especially to be on a startup like 92.3 The Fan, it took off. And we really they didn't do a ton of marketing in the beginning. And now we're 11 years strong. Our numbers are great. We know people are listening. I just think podcasts are, I kind of look at podcasts the way we used to look at newspapers and magazines, and I think that podcasts are the magazines of this generation, where when you want a little bit more and you want more in depth and you want to do it on your time, that's a podcast. When you're looking to read the paper every morning, that's your radio show, and you keep in your go-to, and you go to it, but it's there. It's like comfort food, and you're going to go to that, right? And then the podcast is interesting and neat because I just feel like right now there's a freedom to what we're doing and how we can just talk, and I'm not up against a commercial break, and I don't have 6 people trying to get in my ear, especially on television. Like, think about how ridiculous, as a sports director at the ABC, I had like 2 minutes to tell 17 stories. I mean, no one digests sports like that. No one's looking to local news for highlights anymore. They're looking for stories. And so I think the world we live in and the consumption of sports is in an interesting time. I do think radio, though, has battled many, many storms. People thought radio was going away here and going away there. Man, radio is strong. It's very strong. And I did TV for 20 plus years, 11 here or 14 here in Cleveland. And the feedback I get about Jeff Phelps's car having more than 300,000 miles is probably more than any single newscast that I've ever watched on local news.
I mean,
just because people can relate, they get it.
I love hearing about the minivan. I think you guys talked about
Yeah.
his minivan and how many miles were on it and how he's going to keep it running for years to come. I mean, I was laughing out loud, I think, listening to that segment. That was funny.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, and we do it all the time. So it's that. I just think people are driving around town and we're comfort food, and I love that. And I think that's what sports should be, and it should just be conversation. Our biggest complaint is that we let callers go too long on our show sometimes, or sometimes people say that we're boring sometimes. Maybe just because Jeff and I have a little bit of an older perspective compared to the other shows, which, they skew younger because the folks doing those shows are younger. But I don't mind it. I love giving people the opportunity to talk, even though I've been talking like crazy here since we got on. I love letting callers get in and talk and say their mind. They might say something that's idiotic and stupid, but they're probably not alone. And someone else is probably thinking the same way, they are. And it's okay. I think we all just want to think, hey, am I nuts for thinking this about Deshaun Watson? Am I nuts for thinking about why the Browns didn't go for it on third down, or why they didn't go for it on fourth down, or why they passed, or why they ran? That's why I think post-game shows are so successful, because I think people want to feel validated about the way they watch the game and what they consumed, and they want to hear if other people think the same way.
Well, Andy, I'll say nobody wants to hear us talk. They'd rather hear you. So, I mean,
No.
that's
We've
great.
done extensive studies. They do not care what we say. They do not care what we say. They only want to hear from the guest. Andy, I do have a question, because I'm not like Rob. I never really got into this. I got into this mainly I'll be quite honest with you, because I had a baby and I was working from home and I needed to do something I needed to talk with my buds, so I'm doing it. But I've always wondered, how do you, in doing what you do, in the sense from a national perspective, I mean, you're covering basketball, baseball, football. I mean, and that's just your basic, boilerplate. But to throw on things like when they had the golf tournament in Akron and things like that, like, how much research are you guys doing for your radio shows, let's say on a daily basis for this upcoming stuff, or is it really just, here's a topic we're going to throw out and see what the callers have to say, or how? Because I've always been fascinated as to how your show, how you program those 4 or 5 hours that you do every day.
So in the beginning, it was getting used to being on the air for 4 hours, right? And trying to figure out how you can have a conversation where you're discussing what you think most people are talking about on the radio. And specifically for us, it's Cleveland, right? I mean, we want to talk Cleveland stuff. Now, can we talk the national? Yeah, but are you going to the national for Cleveland perspective? Probably not. We want to hear what they have to say, but we just want it in small doses. And I think, like I said, it's comfort food to know that somebody who's your neighbor is talking about it on the air. And that, Jeff and I have been lucky that, we both have had unbelievable careers, especially from the journalistic side of things. And I don't know that, that's why Jeff and I don't get out there. Like, we'll get mad at each other every once in a while, or we'll get like a little bit tiffed or a little bit angry, but we're not in it to yell at each other every day. And I think that's one of the things that makes our show special. But when it comes to research, we live in an information world where you can do a million things of research and sit down, and the next thing you know, the live tour's teeing off and 17 guys are getting suspended from the PGA. And now all of a sudden you're talking about that, because that's what happened to us this morning. And, while we saw it coming, it's all about knowing what's coming, I think, is the biggest part of preparation for sports talk radio. And, if you have the background and the knowledge of all these sports and understand the way things are going on, or the inner workings of a front office, and I'm not saying you have to know everything, but you just need to know how things work. And, where's the bathroom? I always say that. You're comfortable at work when you know where the bathroom is. And Jeff and I know where the bathroom is in Berea. We know where it is downtown. We knew where it was in Richfield. So, and knowing who to call at the right time to get the right information. So I think it just depends on the season sometimes, the level of research that you're doing, excuse me, or understanding what the storylines are. And, when football starts rolling, everything comes pretty easy. It really does. And you want to be a part of it. And so that's why you can't get enough information.
Yeah, and one thing I like about 92.3 The Fan, and I've been watching 92.3 The Fan for a long time. I just think the lineup is always great. Ken Carman and Anthony Lima feed off each other. Like you said, they're a little bit younger. But then you guys, I think, add a different perspective. Jeff has such a great insight on the Cavs because he does the pregame show, and he's done it for years and years, and he's been around the team. And, he just knows great information that you might not hear anywhere else. And you overall just both feed off each other so well. I thought the Bull and Fox were great together too. Obviously, Bull's no longer there, and you're looking for a replacement there. But the lineup.
You looking? Either one, Sean? You guys looking for a job?
Yeah,
Dustin's looking for someone to hang out with.
Hey.
I'll argue with Dustin Fox for 4.5 hours, but he's going to get sick of me by 2 hours in.
I know. I joked with one of my buddies. I'm like, yeah, that'd be interesting. It'd be Fox and Trout on 92.3 The Fan.
Oh God. Oh God! Now he's referring to himself as Trout. Fantastic.
I've been called much worse than that.
Yeah, wait. Oh, is he on with that Angels guy? Oh.
Yeah.
Wrong Trout.
This guy.
But
this guy.
I always liked you and Jeff. I mean, how is it working with him on radio? I mean, you guys have done TV and stuff for so long. How did it come to be that you and him? I mean, was it 92.3 The Fan? Or like, what if we pair Baskin and Phelps again? They were on TV. They get along. How about them on radio? How did that all come to be for 92.3 The Fan, you and Phelps?
So if you go back in the history books of 92.3 The Fan, I didn't have a partner for the first week because Jeff hadn't signed a contract, and I didn't know it was going to be Jeff. I had no idea. I auditioned with – I must have auditioned with 6 or 7 people. Originally, the show was going to be Baskin and Fox because I knew the station was coming online, and I immediately went to Dustin and said, hey, it looks like I got a good opportunity here to go do radio as well as TV, and I want to do the show with you, especially when we talk about Ohio State football. And at the time, it was when Jim Tressel was going through all of his stuff, and it would have been, like, amazing, especially right out of the gate. Andy Roth, our program director, the guy we call Poobah, thought that Dustin and I sounded like we were two friends doing a radio show, and he wanted a little conflict. And I don't even think he knew that Jeff and I were on TV together for as long, what did we do, 6 years with the Indians? And I don't think he even knew that. And trying to, another interesting tidbit is that it was almost Tim Richards and I, who is now at 102, who does the Jen and Tim show. Tim's very knowledgeable in sports, yeah. And we went through a bunch of people, but to think about the fact that, let's see, Anthony's been there since the beginning. Ken's been there since the beginning. I've been there since the beginning. Jeff's been there since the beginning. Dustin's been there since the beginning. I'm not sure if Chico was around in the beginning, but I don't think Chico was. Yeah, so, you're talking about 7 guys. Garrett Bush was with us in the beginning. All 7 or 8 guys that have been there since day one. And if you're trying to make things comfortable for someone, give them the same voice every day. It's amazing. We really only had 3 people leave since the station started. That's it. 3.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And that consistency works. Like you said, it's like home cooking. I know I can turn on in the middle of the day when I'm driving and running errands. You guys are on arguing about, or talking about, I think it was NIL in high school. And I was like, holy cow. That gave me an idea to talk to Rob, like, hey, is this something, but obviously it got voted down, but it was like that bred an idea, like, this could be something we could talk about because it's not something that's never going to happen. It's going to happen, I think, at some point. I just don't know how it's going to happen. But it was something like I never even thought about that. And like you mentioned earlier, it's a fantastic bring up because you guys probably, weren't writing on a piece of paper saying, oh, yeah, we got to talk about NIL in high school, but it came up and you were able to kind of pontificate a little bit on it and get some research on it and talk about it and bring it to the masses. And now it's an actual conversation that happened.
It was.
And I'm sure.
I remember the first day, we started talking about NIL, and I said, Jeff, if the Supreme Court is going to say that NIL is something that is, what the NCAA was doing was unconstitutional, how long before 18-year-olds in high school are eligible for NIL? That was day one. So I just one other thing about the history of the station that I think it's important to note what Kylie and Booms did for our station out of the gate, because they were the loudest voices on our station right away. And Kevin to me was, I looked at Kevin as a guy, he did sidelines for TNT, and Kevin, played in the NFL, and I really looked up to Kevin. And when I had issues in the beginning, and they were never big issues, but just trying to figure out my way on radio, especially in the early years, like the first 2, 3 years we were on the air, Kevin was always a really, really good voice for me to go to. And I'll always appreciate him, and I'll always appreciate Booms. He was a guy that took a lot of chances on the air. He's extremely funny. He's a comedian. Some people he rubs the wrong way, but when it comes to, guys that I respect and really helped us in the beginning, Kylie and Booms were big time. They really were. And I don't know if they want me talking about them or not, and I don't know if that matters, but I respect what they were able to do, especially helping me out early in my career, and I'll never forget it. So.
Yeah, and I think you need guys like that. I mean, I remember them on the air, and it seemed like they got a lot of positive feedback, and then there were people that listened just to go back at them. And I think that's what you want on radio is different voices. You're not always going to agree on everything you talk about. And that's one thing I wondered with you and Phelps, because you guys were friends. You guys have been together so long. Would you guys ever get into a tiff? And I have heard sometimes.
Well, we've had some.
You guys had some
We've had
ones.
plenty. When Jeff thinks I don't know what I'm talking about, and Jeff knows the hard facts on it, it's a war sometimes. It's a war. And, like even earlier this week, we were talking about Deshaun Watson and this 24th accuser. And I said, Jeff, we don't know if the information's new or if everybody knew who the 24th accuser was, and if the 24th accuser's testimony was used in the decision to no bill or to not indict Deshaun Watson. So, I mean, we're up in the air. We're still up in the air. We don't know if she was a part of the criminal process in this before that got shot down. So, and so Jeff was like, well, we don't know. We're not lawyers. And I'm like, Jeff, I know we're not lawyers, but we have information and we can kind of fill it out. And so, sometimes Jeff and I get like this. We get it.
Yeah.
But Jeff's funny. Like sometimes Jeff just pokes the bear. And if I'm getting upset, I get upset. But most of the times I just start laughing. We had something today where he was picking on me hard, and I just said, all right, you win. I'm done. I'm just not fighting with you.
Yeah.
And Jeff just says at the end of the day, and this is a great line that I picked up from Jeff, early in our career, don't let the millionaires and billionaires ruin your day. Don't let them do it.
Yeah. I mean, how tough is that, though? Everybody's probably tired of talking about Deshaun Watson, but you have to – every time you turn on a radio, I mean, that's been on for how long now? And I mean, nothing's going to change because everything keeps changing on a day-to-day basis, whether you like it or not. And you have to report on what you hear. But how important is it to make sure you get the right facts? Because anymore you can go on Facebook or anywhere, and it seems like some of it is legit, and then others could be BS. And you have to be really careful so you don't go on the air and make sure you bring the right information and the facts correctly on air.
Yeah, it is. Daryl Ryder and I have talked about this numerous times, especially with the podcast. I don't say anything without telling both sides of the story and attributing where all my information comes from on the Deshaun Watson case. The story for us is, what's going to happen to Deshaun Watson? That's first and foremost. But more than that, I mean, let's face it, quarterback on a town like Cleveland that lives and dies by the football team, that position is the most important position in town. And the Browns decided to upgrade at the position, and they let a guy that was winning go. Now, I know they didn't win last year, but they let a guy who led them to their only playoff win since 1999 go. So if you really want to look at the heart of the story, obviously it's twofold. It's Watson, how Watson got here, and the second part of it is Baker and what's going to happen to Baker next. But we are very, very careful in every word. I know I am. Because I'm telling you, I mean, I love the Browns. I love talking sports, but I'm not saying anything that I don't know to be factual or something to be attributed. And, the legal process you can be factual on because the legal process is what the legal process is, and trying to help people along the way. And just knowing it and understanding it from a news perspective, we know how the courts work and we know how all those things work, and those are all pretty standard. And I think that it's our responsibility to help people try to figure that out. We don't have all the information. We don't. Yeah. None of us do.
Absolutely.
Nobody does.
Yep.
Hey, Andy, you mentioned that you're doing a podcast with Daryl Ryder, and Daryl Ryder is one of my favorite columnists. I think I love his updates on the morning show whenever he's on, because I really do feel like he's trying to be the sensible one in a world gone mad, and it's funny because I can hear maybe, like, especially the morning guys really kind of try and rile him up a little bit, and they really want to try and get everything. But what have you noticed about doing the podcast, and can you give us a little bit more information on the podcast for those that don't listen to 92.3 The Fan? What have you liked doing about the podcast, or something that maybe you weren't expecting about doing the podcast?
We haven't even come close to hitting our stride on the podcast. Like right now, we've had so much news that we want to go through, and it's been kind of news and news reaction and talking about things that are going on in the NFL. As the podcast grows, I'm very much looking forward to it. I mean, we have a list of people we want to talk to on the podcast. We want to give people access to where they've never been before, and not being confined into a 12-minute segment on the radio, and not being, and just trying to, like, I keep envisioning someone driving from point A to point B. I don't think podcasts, need to be more than an hour. The only podcast that I'll possibly listen to that's longer than that is Office Ladies, which I absolutely love. I don't know if you guys have ever listened to that.
It's fantastic.
I mean, it's great. The stuff behind the scenes on that stuff. And I really like Will Ferrell, the Anchorman podcast.
Yeah.
And it's good, but I can't listen to that for very long. And there are other podcasts that I like listening to, but I always find myself only listening to podcasts, when I'm on a long drive, and when I know I'm leaving a terrestrial area going into another, like that drive to Columbus or drive to Toledo or Youngstown or something like that. Yeah. That's when I love podcasts. Sorry, guys.
And no problem at all. And Andy, talk a little bit about, you took over for Les Levine on CJN, and how special that is to you, because I think Les Levine was the absolute best. He was so great on radio, but he was a great writer as well. And I know you took over on the Cleveland Jewish publication company. You write some articles on that, and for Columbus as well. What does that mean to you, and how much fun are you having doing that now?
So what's really interesting is I get a ton of feedback on that periodical, and it might be called the Cleveland Jewish News, but a lot of people read it. It's a lot more than just Jewish people.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think I was shocked by that in the beginning. I really was. And it's to be able to do what Les did, and to kind of be in this lineage of Jewish writers, or people that embrace their Jewish heritage, like Les, like Hal Lebovitz, and to be able to have the floor to be able to do that in writing has been unbelievably special. And I think it's more special because Les and I had such a great relationship, and I love doing Fridays with Les. And I did Fridays for 6 years, I think 6 or 7 years. Once we got the contract for the Browns, and Jeff was off on Fridays, and Les filled in, and I'll never forget the time I was driving in on 480, and I'm like, what is going on with traffic? Why is it so slow? And it was a Friday, and normally traffic flies in Northeast Ohio on Friday. Yeah. And I'm just waiting to get in, and I'm on this line, and I'm on 271. We're heading west on 480. It's taking forever. And then I see there's one slow car at the beginning of the line after I passed, and it was Les. And I got downtown, and we laughed about it for 4 hours. And I miss Les a lot. I mean, Les and Les was, when my dad passed away, I can't begin to tell you how meaningful the words of Les Levine were to me, and they still are. And it's I don't know, I miss him. I love the fact that we still play his sound bites on the air.
I mean, they are classic. I mean, how can you not? And he always made everybody laugh, but I mean, he was so quick-witted on callers. I mean, any caller that would come at him, I mean, he was so quick and funny, really, about it. He was never mean. He always had facts, and I thought he was just so good on the air. When he was talking, I mean, he would command your attention all the time. Anytime he was on the air, I would just want to listen to everything he said, because he was just so good at it. And, he was just a great guy. You could tell everybody liked him, and he was very I thought smart with what he did on radio, and he'd come up with some of the greatest segments that I've ever heard, I would say.
My brother, like I lost my brother 16 years ago, and my brother watched Les every day, whether it was on Cablevision or what is Spectrum now, and to my brother would tell me every day, this is what Les did, this is what Les did, and it hit me after my brother passed away, and I was talking to my brother. I mean, I was just started doing the Indians at that point, and my brother called me every night, and he had cystic fibrosis, and he knew that the clock was ticking on his lungs. But I just never swallowed that while he was alive. And he would call me every day. And I realized how special those moments were that when I was talking to my brother. But when I go back and think about what those conversations were filled with, they were filled with talking about what Les had to say on the air time and time again. And I mean, I told Les that a million times, and he's like, whatever. He's so humble about it. But I still think in 11 years, one of the funniest bits that ever happened was when we were sitting around talking about, the great things that were going on in Cleveland when the Cavs won the championship. And, I started in, I was like, man, look at this. Stipe Miocic just won a belt, and the Monsters sold out, at the time, I think it was Quicken Loans Arena at the time, and 19,000 to win the Calder Cup, and the Cavs just won, and we got the convention that's here, and then and then I said, and then I think we had the gay games coming up, and then we took a call, and somebody was complaining about how come the Indians couldn't win. It was before the Indians played the Cubs in the World Series, and we're talking about all these great things and this just like this Debbie Downer calls in to start talking about, the Browns aren't winning, and Les goes off on this tirade, and it is just so funny, and we still play it all the time. I hear it. He's like, we got a championship. We got the gay games. How come we don't have the straight games? Why don't we get the? I mean, he went on for probably 5 minutes, and I was in tears, just in tears. And I think we missed a break because I was laughing so hard. And I'm trying to think, it might have been Falar, who was our producer at the time. And I was just like, this is so good. This is such a good, it was such a joyous moment in life because it was so funny. Yeah. And he just kept ranting.
It was probably the Bostonian. I know the Bostonian. I haven't heard from him calling in a while. He was always calling in, and I thought he was funny. But, sometimes I know you guys always let him talk. That's the one thing great about you and Jeff. You do let him still talk and have his moment, and then you're like, all right, get him off of here. But
well, I will admit that there are times where I'll see him hanging on the line. And I have a lot of friends who are from New England here, especially the hockey world.
Yeah.
And I look up every bad stat I can find when I know he's on hold. I'm like, okay, give me what's bad in Boston sports this week? Is it the Bruins or the Patriots doing something wrong? Can I find something about the Celtics that everybody hates? And then because the Bostonian is a character. That's what he is. Jeff loves him. He's annoying to me. I'll be honest with you. I'm sure as a person, he's not a bad person, but I sit there and I think, I'm a Clevelander. I'm driving around town right now, and the last thing I want to hear is this guy from Boston. And I think that people want to hear him just get obliterated by one of the hosts. And he's one of the few guys that he gets under my skin sometimes. His wife is an angel, though, I will tell you that.
Yeah, I've heard her even on the air, I think.
We put her on.
Yeah, I know
we put her on.
And we'll wind down the show here shortly, but I remember, you were talking about your brother, and I know at Firestone, when it was with Fox Sports Net, I know I volunteered and went to, you were raising money for cystic fibrosis there at Firestone, and you've been raising money and doing that for a long time, and what a great thing to do, and I know it meant a lot to you. Talk a little bit about what you're still doing with that.
Yeah, well, so our family, still is a driving force. My nephew Brett is kind of taking over things for my sister-in-law Beth and myself, and we still participate. But with COVID, it kind of changed the dynamic. I mean, we have so many great sponsors that have been with us for a long time. We were with Matt Colleague, who from Leaf Filter, that's really put an imprint on Cleveland sports. And it's hard to go to a venue without seeing something from, Leaf Filter or from Colleague and just, Shamrock. And just, we've had so many great sponsors over the year of folks that, come out and they participate. And, I probably should name all of them if I could, but I just think about the relationships that we've had with them. And, we've raised millions towards finding a cure for cystic fibrosis. And, I'm really proud of my nephew for taking over right now because he's done an outstanding job. And I used to say to my brother, especially when I first moved back home from Columbus, hey, I can probably get athletes to play in our foursomes, especially if we're playing, excuse me, the Monday of the All-Star game. And I was traveling with the Indians at the time, and I'm like, I probably can get these guys to play. And my brother always said, that's great, but, we still got to pay for them. And when you go to Firestone, you're going to play the course. You want to play where the pros play. And that was the biggest celebrity we ever needed. And I kind of was like, you know what, you're right. You're right. And so the course has been great to us. We work with so many good people at Firestone. And I think we're one of the longest running, if not the longest running event at Firestone as far as charity is concerned. I don't even know how many. We might be in 40 plus years, maybe 45 years we've been at Firestone. Wow. I mean, it's a long run for the Northeast Ohio chapter of Cystic Fibrosis and Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. And we've made great strides. And, it's a tribute to everybody that keeps working on that golf outing. But to me, it's just a chance to sit back and say, how can we get rid of cystic fibrosis in my lifetime? Because my brother knew he wasn't going to be able to dodge the bullets to get by cystic fibrosis, and the research that they've done in the last 16 years and the drugs that are in the pipeline all really stemmed from events like our golf outing or Great Strides or Chef's Fantasy or any of these things that we do around town. And to make the money nationally, to be able to fund the research, fund the development. And we are so lucky that we're in Cleveland when it comes to cystic fibrosis, because we have unbelievable doctors at Rainbow and at Case that have done amazing things. And, we went from when my brother was born, that you were probably lucky if you made it past 10 years old. Now we do geriatric care, and we're in danger of being taken off the list of a disease that kills you. So, I mean, we've made great strides. We're almost there, but there are still a lot of kids and young adults and that, the mix of pills that they're using to try to cure cystic fibrosis isn't working. So we still have work to do, and we're going to make sure that, we want cystic fibrosis at the least to be a maintenance disease rather than a killer.
Absolutely. Well, you've done a great job with that. I know being a part of it, and it was a while ago, but you did a great job then, and I've heard great things still about it, and what you're doing is incredible. So keep up the good work. Sean, any last questions for Andy before we let him go here?
No, I've been looking at what you've covered in your career, Andy, and you've done it all. I mean, you've covered a World Series, you've covered an NBA championship. You haven't covered a World Series win yet, but
sorry, I haven't covered a Super Bowl, guys. That's what I want. I haven't covered a Super Bowl.
That's what you want. That's what I was going to ask. Is that the bucket list? You want to cover Super Bowl? I think everybody in Cleveland would be happy with that.
Yeah, I would too. And that's the one ththing I really haven't covered. I mean, I've done everything. I mean, I've done auto racing. I've done
Olympics. You did.
Yeah, I've done the Olympics. I've done. It's just I've been super lucky, but I've also been blessed to be able to do some things like raise money for Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and my wife Cassie and I are also on the board for a Special Wish. And if anyone's looking to volunteer for a great foundation, Jason Butert and his wife Eileen run a Special Wish here in Cleveland, and it's unbelievable what they do. And it's not just like one wish and let's get some sick kid to Disney. That's not what they're about. They're about taking care of the families and making sure that they have meals at Rainbow or whatever hospital you may be in. And they do fundraisers all the time. If you see a Special Wish anywhere out there, give a look, even if you just volunteer a couple hours or just have it on your mind to think about a Special Wish, because there are families with kids that have problems that make you realize that if you have kids, that how special they are if they're healthy. And a Special Wish does just this amazing job of not only caring for the Wish kid, but making sure the families are taken care of and becoming a part of their family. And a special wish is truly near and dear to my heart. As much as we do for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, a special wish is something that I wish everyone would look into. And if they could just do one thing in their life for a special wish, that would be unbelievable. And that would make a lot of little kids whose days aren't as easy as ours smile.
Yeah, and we've seen some great stories with that. Like you said, it's not just sending them to different places and meeting celebrities and all that. It goes way beyond that. So just appreciate you talking about that a little bit, and appreciate
thanks for letting me.
Yeah,
thanks for letting me.
Anytime, and appreciate you coming on our show and talking. We talked a little bit of sports, but we talked a lot about other stuff, and that's kind of the whole point of our summer spotlight, is to get to know. We had Tony Brown on, the Monsters play-by-play guy, last week. Oh, he's such a great guy, and we've known him for a while, and he added insight with Monsters hockey, but talked a little bit about his journey too, to get where he's at, and it's just fun to talk, just hanging out, talking about a lot of different stuff. So we appreciate your time. I know how busy you are, and you got to get some sleep at some point. I know for a while I wondered how you did it. You were doing TV and radio. I'm like, I don't think he sleeps.
No, and because I have a great wife, and we've been able to raise 2 kids along the way, and they play multiple sports, and it's sometimes there's days you wake up and you're like, oh my God, how do I get off this thing, and how do we get to vacation? And,
I hear you.
I'm just very thankful for all the things in my life, and I have one more I'll shout out to is Life Bank. They do an amazing job. Be an organ donor. I say at the end of every show.
Yeah.
It gave me the opportunity to say It gave me the opportunity to have 3 months to say goodbye to my brother, because he was an organ recipient, and I don't know if I would have had that time. So Life Bank is an unbelievably worthy cause, and you talk about doing good deeds in your life. All you need to do is let them know when you're at the DMV that you want to be an organ donor, and it's you would not believe the lives you could affect when your time is passed. So
yep, I'm signed up. I know that for sure.
Too.
Well, appreciate it, Andy. Thanks for coming on and talking with us.
Thank you so much.
Have a great show tomorrow, and we'll stay in touch and talk soon.
You got it, Sean. I'll tell Dustin you'll be in to fill in next week from.
Yeah, sure.
Or wait, is that Trout and Fox? I can't remember.
Yeah,
Trout, it's gonna be
Fox and Trout is what I was thinking. I've been called Trout Fish, or do you like Trout and Fox better?
I like Trout and Fox better.
Okay,
it rolls off the tongue easier.
Yeah, I'm sure Dustin will have no problem with that.
Yeah, I'll be in next Friday, or I don't know what day. I think Chico does a great job. I love Chico, so those two.
We've had some really talented people fill in.
Yeah, a lot.
And then there was me. Then there was me for a week, and I'm back in the middays. I got the best hours on radio. I can tell you that. I'll never ever take that.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
All right, Andy. Enjoy your night. Enjoy the rest of your week, and thanks for coming on Sports.
Thank you, guys. Let's do it again. I love it.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Andy.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, that's Andy Baskin, the midday host from 92.3 The Fan, here joining us on Sports on Tap, the Summer Spotlight Series. I want to thank him for joining us. He does an absolute great job and is so kind to come on our show. But a great talking to him and just talked about a lot of things. And I think that's the fun of doing the Summer Spotlight is you can go a little bit above and beyond just the normal talk of Cleveland sports and, talk about the national and stuff. But we obviously cover high school sports, which is fun, and spotlights the coaches and players. But we can also talk about some local celebrities in the area.
Oh, yeah. And what's great is Andy Baskin is a guy, and he listed everything he's doing, and not just on the professional side, but the personal side. He took time out of his day to speak with us about his journey and how he did it. And the big thing that I took from it was the paying it forward. If you have the opportunity to help somebody, whether it be in your professional life or even in your personal life. I mean, he's cystic fibrosis, Life Bank, Special Wish. I mean, it's not only good for the humanity, it's good for the soul. You know what I mean? You can do things. And it doesn't have to be this. You don't have to be a LeBron James and donating millions of dollars. Donate an hour of your day. Go out there and help somebody. You would not believe just helping somebody with cleaning up after a meal will do for their mental health and for your own spiritual growth. So, I mean, if that's the one thing we could take from this interview,
Absolutely.
was the paying it forward, both professionally, personally, spiritually, whatever you got to do. I mean, that's a great thing he's doing. Before we go, Rob, down to a little bit of business. It is 9:00 after all. We got to do a little bit of business. We would be remiss if we did not mention our wonderful sponsors of this podcast and our overall show. That would be, I'm going to do this again, G&G Fitness, GV Artwork. Use our code ONTAP10 to save 10% at checkout. They got great new selection of Guardians merch. They got some new Brown stuff. They got all your local colleges. Obviously Kent State and Akron if you're into that, but obviously they got Bowling Green too. If you have that, if you're gonna go on the right side of the MAC, you want to go to the orange and brown, get down with the orange and brown. That's GV Artwork. But also Rob, RRT Productions, doing great things. If you're looking for a sports video, so such great things. I'm excited. That was a great interview. 2 great spotlight shows. I think we're on a roll here in the summer, Rob, and I don't know where this thing is going. Can you give a little insight as to who we got coming up?
Well, I know our next one is June 30th, a Thursday at 8 p.m. And we have Channel 3's Jay Crawford coming on to talk a little bit about his journey at WKYC, how he ended up there. He was on ESPN at one point and was at Bowling Green. He's a Bowling Green alum, so we'll look forward to talking to him. We also have Coach Dotson from the Brunswick soccer program. He's been head coach there for a while. He leads the Brunswick Blue Devils in wins as active coach there. So we'll be talking to him, and we'll have some other guests go on as we go on with the summer spotlight, and maybe we'll have the SOT spotlight continue even throughout summer. So we'll see how that goes with guests. But we're always very gracious to have some great guests on it. And Andy and Tony Brown came on, and just great interviews. Like you said, not just talk about sports, but other things. But go back and listen on YouTube.
We're getting close here. We're starting. Look, I know it's early June. We got Father's Day coming up. Once that calendar kicks into July, we're starting down the barrel. Not only we're talking about high school football, baby. We're talking about 2022 season. We're talking about the greatest time in Northeast Ohio, and that is football season.
Yep.
Followed directly by the greatest time, which is Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League season as well.
Absolutely, and that's what. It's going to get interesting when that happens, and then on Mondays we'll be getting back at it with our shows with high school sports, doing the recaps and getting interviews from coaches and players. We'll get back into that, and I know we had a lot of positive feedback about our high school football show, getting coaches and players on to talk about the big games from Friday night. So we're going to work to do that. I would also be remiss if I didn't realize that this is my comeback year in the Sports on Tap Fantasy Football League. This is my comeback year. I'm coming for the belt. I do not want your brother to have it anymore. I don't want your brother to have it anymore. Jeff Troutman, our cameraman, who does a great job. I'm coming for that belt. It's mine. And I don't see your name on it.
It was on it. It was the originator. I was the original person to have that belt, the first one. I want it back.
Well, we started from the bottom. Now we're here.
I never left, baby.
What, the bottom? I know.
Shut up. All right.
But great show, Sean. Appreciate you coming on with me tonight.
Absolutely.
Thanks to Andy Baskin again from 92.3 The Fan for joining us. Just a great interview. You can go to our website, sportsontappodcast.com, and listen to that again, or our YouTube page. Hit subscribe. And get emails of all the guests that we're going to have coming up. So you'll get an email that says when we post a video or have a live event coming up. So whether we're doing hockey or football or interviews, you'll get all those right there from our YouTube page.
And follow us on Twitter and Facebook. We are at SOT Podcast. Our Senior Vice President of Social Media Content and Development, Josh Jeffy, does a fantastic job.
Yes, he does.
Of all that. We just keep throwing words behind that title. His head is just gonna. He's not gonna be able to
man,
fit
he loves
into
every
the
minute of it.
offense.
You know. But great job, Sean, and we'll see you a few weeks actually. So enjoy a little time off.
Will do.
All right. For Sean Duffy, I'm Rob Troutman. We'll see you next time on Sports on Tap's Summer Spotlight Series. Have a great rest of the week, everyone.